Before Jesus, multiple Jewish figures claimed to be Messiah like deliverers. Their dramatic failures, violent ends, crushed revolts, and false hopes created skepticism and confusion. This video explores who they were, what they did, and why their legacy made Jesus' claim so hard to accept. Really quick, if you haven't seen my video about the 400 years of silence, I suggest starting there for a speed tour of the timeline following the Babylonian exile. After the collapse of its own Jewish dynasty, Judea fell under the domination of Rome. Heavy taxes, foreign soldiers on their streets, and governors who often disrespected their customs created a constant state of unrest. For many Jews, the hope for a Messiah, an anointed king like David, was a desperate political dream of freedom. Much of what we know about these turbulent times comes from one crucial source, Flavius Josephus, a Jewish general and historian who lived through the Jewish revolt against Rome. He wrote detailed accounts like the Jewish War and Antiquities of the Jews, offering an unparalleled, though often biased, window into this era. Josephus' writings are vital because he provides direct accounts of many of these false messiahs. However, it's crucial to read Josephus with a discerning eye. He was writing for his Roman patrons. The last thing he wanted was to tell them that the Jewish faith was built on the hope of a world-conquering Messiah who would defeat Rome. So he intentionally downplays Jewish messianic hopes and often dismisses these figures as thugs or bandits, when in reality, many saw themselves and were seen by their followers as legitimate freedom fighters fulfilling scripture. Herod was a brilliant builder, but he was also a paranoid tyrant with a complicated family life. In his final years, his fear of being overthrown drove him to madness. He executed anyone he saw as a threat, including his own wife Miriam and three of his sons. The Roman Emperor Augustus, who put Herod in power, famously joked that it was safer to be Herod's pig than his son. When Herod finally died a painful death in 4 BC, redistribution of his kingdom had to be approved by Rome. The emperor divided the territory among Herod's three surviving sons, creating a fractured and unstable political landscape. The most important region, Judea and Samaria, went to Herod Archelaus, but he was so brutal and incompetent that after 10 years of complaints, Rome removed him from his office in 6 AD. This was a critical moment. It marked the beginning of direct Roman rule in Judea through governors like Pontius Pilate. The second son, Herod Antipas, got Galilee. He's the Herod who executes John the Baptist and encounters Jesus. The third son, Philip, ruled the northern territories. This division left no single strong leader, creating a power vacuum that ambitious rebels were eager to fill. When the tyrant King Herod the Great died in 4 BC, the kingdom erupted. Several men immediately rose up claiming the right to rule, claiming to be the anointed. Now keep in mind that the scriptures foretold of a Jewish Messiah, a descendant of King David who would be a future king ushering in the Messianic age of peace and justice. After years of oppression, people were desperate for a sign of relief, so it's understandable that they believed these initial claims. One of the first was Judas, son of Hezekiah. His father Hezekiah had been a notorious bandit chief executed by Herod, so Judas had a score to settle. He gathered a band of followers, raided the royal armory in Sepphoris, and armed them. He proclaimed himself king, aiming to overthrow the Herodian dynasty and ignite a full-scale rebellion. This was an early taste of the zealot-like movements to come. Another claimant was Simon of Perea. Simon was not a bandit, but a former royal servant of Herod himself. He was a man with connections and knowledge of the palace. He actually placed a diadem, a royal headband, upon his head and was publicly proclaimed king by his followers in the region of Perea. He burned royal palaces and mansions, rallying thousands to his cause before being cornered and killed by the Roman and Herodian forces. Then there was Athronges, a figure who embodied classic messianic imagery. He was a simple shepherd, but a man of immense physical stature and strength. He and his 4 brothers, also powerful men, led a fierce guerrilla war for 2 years against both the Romans and Herod's family. Crucially, Athronges explicitly took the title the Shepherd of Judea, a direct and powerful echo of King David, the original shepherd king of Israel. This made his claim resonate deeply with the populace. So when Jesus of Nazareth began his ministry, he stepped into a world that was not only desperately hoping for a Messiah, but was also deeply scarred by a history of failed ones. The public had a clear job description in mind, a warrior who would fight Rome. This backdrop of violent rebellion and crushing defeat is essential to understanding the world of Jesus. It explains the desperate hopes of the people, the brutal caution of authorities, and profound skepticism that would have met a carpenter from Galilee who claimed to be a king but refused to raise a sword.